Hi, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica. Today we're going to continue talking about movie training, because I'm a movie trainer. I know a lot about it. So when we think about movie training, we want to think about training basically would you engineer a stunt person? Because actors are essentially low-level stunt people. They bring in the stunt guys for all the super dangerous shit, but you have to get all your close-ups and all your in-camera close-up face, all that stuff has to be your lead actor. Your actor needs to have training to do this. So let's think about what types of things they need to do. I always use the training performance hierarchy pyramid. I believe that's the correct terminology. And it has four levels, kind of like this. And so where most people do is they do one or two of the levels, depending on what the trainer is. The goal is to get all four levels into the training, which is not normally how it's done because people just don't think this way. I studied engineering at USC, so I'm super nerdy about stuff. And so I'm always looking for the information that I do not have to try and complete the equations. Standard engineering thought process. So at the bottom, we have our general physical preparedness. And this is where most people kind of always live. For some people, that would be CrossFit. For me, that's kettlebells and heavy club swinging and body flow. And this applies to all sports. People tend to leave out this part, or they only stay at this part and skip the rest. General physical preparedness for us is barbells, kettlebells, calisthenics, heavy club swinging. Learning to do basic movements. Learning that basic level of core conditioning that has to happen. And there's many ways to do this, but the simplest way to do this is to do deadlift, squat, clean and press. And you can do that with any of the implements, barbell, kettlebell, or club. I tend to lead towards kettlebells and clubs because they solve more of the engineering problems that I have along the way. Moving up a level, we have our activity-specific preparedness. And this is recreating useful movement patterns with the dynamics that we have. Taking our, let's say, a kettlebell thruster squat to press and turning that into a rotation squat to press. And that's helping people learn to turn their hips over so that they can learn to throw punches better. Also turning your hips over a lot. You'll see this if you watch a lot of modern action movies. You don't see it in old action movies because they haven't figured it out yet. Turning your hips all the way over 90 degrees and moving offline allows you to be on the opposite side. There's a stunt guy here, you're back here. As you move, you're going to move so the camera can actually see the movements that you're doing. Ba, ba, ba. And even here, I'm filling the frame. I'm moving all the way back and forth instead of just standing in the middle and doing these things. Moving up into recreating those useful movement patterns for movies is usually fight training, but fight training that's moving offline instead of staying online, as you might do in real fight training. So there's a slight difference between real fight training and movie fight training, and that is specifically, are you moving to a position where the camera can actually see you? Right here in this level also, we want to make sure that we are doing our left and our right side equally. That was correct for the camera, yeah. And that is very simply because we need to make sure that we can do all of our movements ambidextrously so that if the camera moves to a different location because the background is different, then we are moving and we can flip the whole thing over. Most people in most sports have one strong side. If you're a competitive fighter, you probably have a strong side that you learn all your techniques on, so you're spending twice as much time training your good side to try and win the fight. But in movies, you're not actually trying to win the fight, you're trying to get the shot. This is something that's very, very misunderstood about movie training. They're not real fights. It's not real observe, orient, decide, act. Everybody's supposed to know what's going to happen ahead of time so that people don't get hurt. If things go wrong, things need to stop so that you can reset. The same thing is true very much about camera distance and focal length. So you have to learn to move to the correct spot so that the camera can still find you and you're still in focus in the correct distance and speed. Because usually somebody's pulling that focus manually, and if suddenly you're in the wrong spot and you're out of focus, that shot is no good. So learning all this useful movement and footwork stuff is kind of that second level of training. Moving up the level again, then we get to our pure choreography training. And that could be choreography for a dance scene. Everybody needs to be in the right place at the right time. But what I'm usually talking about is choreography for actual fight scenes. So now you've taken your general physical preparedness, your activity-specific movement, and now you're putting it into actual choreography, where they design a fight scene, and then everybody has to do everything correctly every time in order to make that work. And so that also has to be something you train. Probably don't want to learn to, don't try and do that on the day unless you are super good. The best movies spend a lot of time up here on choreography. Where choreography fails is if they did not do the first 2 levels of this pyramid. If they did not have the time, or people didn't know that they needed to do that. Doing fight scenes is hard, like super high heart rate, very sweaty, super high pressure. Why? There's hundreds of people waiting on you, and every minute costs an absurd amount of money. If there's 200 people standing around on set, you want to make sure you're getting the choreography part of this whole equation correct. Because the more times you mess it up, the more money it costs, the less shots you get, and therefore, the less good the overall outcome of the movie. The goal is to get it to be either good, cheap, or fast, right? Classic thing, you get 2 of those. So it can be good and cheap, but it can't be fast. That means you have to spend time on all of this stuff. You have to be physically prepared, you have to have the correct movement patterns. This is a Zoolander joke, it is so true. Not an ambi-turner. Most people cannot turn both directions equally well. And this causes huge problems in fight scenes. Therefore, you spend a lot of time here and a lot of time up here in choreography. Therefore, you can learn it very well, so you already know it, so that when you get in front of the camera and each minute is costing an absurd amount of money, everything goes well. Even if everything goes well, you're probably still gonna do, what, 7 takes from each camera angle? Medium, wide, close, far, reactions on the actor side, reaction on the other actor side, moving stunt guys in and out. So there's all these moving parts that have to happen inside training for movies, and those are the things that we want to think about. All of those things add up to what we call the top of the pyramid, the mental emotional preparedness part of the pyramid. If everything goes well, then people are mentally and emotionally prepared to actually do the job at the right time. Actors do not have the correct training in the bottom parts of the pyramid, then it gets really freaky. Because now you're standing there on set, lights blazing, what's happening? Oh my God, now you're in a costume. You didn't train in the costume, so you don't know. It moves weird, it pulls, you can't lift your leg up the correct distance, suddenly you're in high heels, something like that. So we want to make sure the bottom of the pyramid is good, to get the top of the pyramid to be ideal. The goal is to stack all that training up, engineer it, in order to get the correct outcome at the correct time. It's much like training for every other sport. If you're training for the CrossFit Games, then you do all these same things in order to get to the games to perform at your ideal best. So all of these things are related. Any sport can have this exact same engineering mindset and ideal, and that's what we want. We want to engineer this process as much as possible to remove the variables in order to make sure that we're guaranteeing the proper outcome. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica with a continued talk about training for movies.